Hey, this is your host, Rick Houston. Before we get down to business in this week's episode, how about hitting those subscribe, like, and notification buttons? With all that out of the way, let's get on with the show.
So, 1992, you moved to RCR.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
It came about by this. At Whitcomb's, some internal turmoil came about. I'm not going to get into details, but it was racing back then. Okay. And it had nothing to do with the sponsorship of the team or anything. It was personal stuff. Not that I was involved with.
Yeah.
But there was a crew chief changeover, that kind of stuff due to that. Anyway, so this fifth race of the year, and we'd run Darlington. And I was the only body hanger left in the building. We were getting ready to hire Barry Dodson and all his brothers and stuff, John and those guys, and knew that was coming. So that morning, they came in and they fired like 3 people at Whitcomb's. Anyway, so me and another boy pulled the engine out of the car from Darlington, and then I put it over on the setup plate. I put a right side, half the side on it, the right front fender. The hood was okay. I was able to straighten out the edge of the hood and a nose on the car and got it ready for the body shop because we were possibly going to run it this following weekend. And after that, the GM, I mean, I stayed there till 11 o'clock that night doing that, putting the body on it to get it ready for the body shop. And then the GM took me in and fired me. Okay. But they needed it. So there you go. And I didn't have animosity towards the team with that. So anyway, far as RCR, so Kevin Hamlin was doing the one car out here for Rick Mask. And Childress was up there. And I went and I interviewed the same GM said, hey, and it wasn't nothing personal. Barry was bringing in people that were going to replace me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what I say in racing, you don't take stuff personal. There's always something there, whether it's money or whatever. So anyway, I went over and I seen Richard Mass. And spoke with him, spoke with Kevin and those guys. Great deal. It was in Denver. I was living in Statesville. Felt like I was going to go to work there. Okay. And then I went over and I met RC and sat down with him, and that went good. But that was a little bit more of a drive, so I wasn't 100% sure. So I told him, I said, sure. And he said, come to Bristol with us this weekend. So I went to Bristol.
With RCR.
With RCR.
Yeah.
Right. And I hadn't told them, and I hadn't committed anywhere yet. I told Kevin I'm going to Bristol with them. So I go up there, and I'm staying with David Smith. He's my roommate for the night. I get up there. They're already in the room and everything. And we get up that morning, and I made me not knowing, I made a comment about going to dinner. I said, you don't mind me wearing my 500 ring, because that. And yeah. I'm not good with. I'm not very smooth. Okay, and I didn't mean that derogatory, but it came out bad.
Who were you?
This was David Smith. He was my roommate.
Well, I know he didn't cuss you.
No, he didn't. No,
he might have wanted to.
he had a great reply of, sure, you can put it on while I'm picking out one of my championship belt buckles over here. And I went, okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, that next morning we came down and we get in the van. And when we come down and get in the van,
now this is still 91.
No, this is 92.
92.
This is 92.
Okay.
6th race in 92, Bristol.
Okay.
We come down and we get in the van, and these cats don't say anything. We get in the van and it's quiet. We pull into Bristol, and this is when you're still on the inside there. We pull into Bristol, the doors open up, and this machine comes out. These guys are incredible. I'm just amazed by it. It's Will Lynn, David Smith, Danny Myers, Kirk, and I'm just blown away by how they work together. I described it as if one dropped a wrench, the other one grabbed it before it hit the ground because they knew it was coming. Okay?
Wow. Yeah.
It was absolutely incredible. And I experienced this all day long, and they, boom, 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 and they had me in there, and boom, boom, boom. I'm a tire guy. Okay, taken for Will Lynn, helping Will Lynn with that, and felt like I was a pretty good tire guy at that point. But anyway, we go and we do that practice all day long, and as we do that practice all day long, we get in the van at the end of the day. We get back in there. Nobody's saying anything again. Kirk's driving, and he comes out of Bristol, and we take a left like we're going to Johnson City. He goes across 4 lanes of traffic, gassed it, gunned it, pulls into a gas station, squeals the tires in there, throws it in park, jumps out saying anything to anybody, goes in the store. The moment he stepped out of there, chaos ensued. Everybody's cussing each other, and just coming unglued. And when David wasn't, but you know what I mean? And it wasn't cussing. It was just, talking crap about this guy, about that guy, but it was all in there. It was all inside. It wasn't anybody else. And he got back in, and it continued like that. And I realized that this was a family at that point.
Okay, now were they giving each other a hard time, or were they really?
No. They were giving each other a hard time.
But just kidding.
I don't know.
Or were they really griping?
I wasn't involved enough with it to know how much it was sarcasm, how much it was realism.
Yeah.
But I do know that it blew me away. And I also sold me on it. So I told Richard asked me at the end of the weekend, he said, "What do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I want to drive to your shop during school bus hours to see what it's going to take to get there, and I'll tell you on Monday." And that's what I did. And when I got there, I told him, yeah.
How long a drive was it?
It's right at an hour.
Okay.
Okay. From there, I live on the Cool Springs side of Statesville, so I'd go out 64 and go through Moxville, go down through Lexington, and come back up with that. It wasn't terrible, and it was the perfect time. It was like working at Dygard. It was a perfect time to get your head together.
Yeah.
And leave there what's there and be able to be home.
Yeah.
So it was actually perfect with it. And it was a great environment. Danny Lawrence was the other one I didn't mention. Danny was there with that. And it was great. They were so, you had Chocolate the biker guy. You had Kirk from Philly, complete different. Will Lynn, kind of a playboy kind of guy. Danny Lawrence, prankster, joker, sarcasm to the next level, So it was all this different pattern together to make the best ball you'd ever seen. Yeah. It was awesome.
All right. So 92, you joined the team in the spring, Bristol, or not race Bristol?
No, spring in Bristol.
Spring Bristol.
Year, right.
Okay. 92 was not a typical year for RCR.
92, we won the 600.
Yeah.
And it was all on Earnhardt.
Uh-huh.
Okay. He got on and off of pit road great. Mike Mulhern summed that up, and we had the Hoosier Tire deal going that year.
Yeah.
But Mike Mulhern summed it up as about 3/4 of the way through the year as that we were building character. Okay. And I said, building character sucks. Okay? Yeah. I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to, we got the greatest driver.
Yeah.
And we're finishing 12th in points. Okay.
What happened? What was?
Well, first of all, the Fords had that 600 horse package that they had. We were still on the rear steer car. So we had the small oil pan. The rear steer cars were you couldn't put the big oil pan on it because of the way the steering went behind the cross member.
Yeah.
Where everybody else was running that front steer car. Earnhardt didn't want to give up that rear steer car until he realized there was a whole lot more engine with that front steer car. It had a different feel to it. So at the end of that year, I'm going to say maybe even not even till the following year did we go to the front steer car. But that was some of the stuff that happened. The Hoosier Tire deal, the Ford engine package, and the simple fact we were obsolete on our chassis. We didn't make that jump. All combined, we finished 12th and Rusty finished 13th in points that year.
Yeah.
And that was the way it was. But I think that was more of it than anything, from my perspective.
You obviously hadn't been there as long as some of the other people, but Kirk did leave at the end of the year. How big a shock was that to you?
Huge.
Okay.
Huge. Kirk was right up my alley. He strong, quiet, and if he had a problem, he told you. Okay, which is exactly what I liked in a boss. He's not going to BS you. He's not going to worry about your personal life or any of this stuff. It was cut and dry. This is what it is. Period. Do your job. If you're not doing your job right, I'll come tell you you're not doing it right. Okay. Where we transition into a little bit more of a very different situation after that.
Yeah.
And that's, it's just different people. And that's why most of those guys left, or that was kind of the end of the Flying Aces. Okay. The true Flying Aces.
Andy did come in.
Mm-hmm.
Petrie did come in. And when I talked to him, however long ago it was for the show, he said that he was not received real well.
Yeah.
How big a change was it between Kirk and Andy?
Huge. It was night and day difference. Andy had a different style of the people, and the people there weren't receptive of it. Okay. And it's just different philosophies, I guess you could say. But also with that, Andy brought in a lot of good things, not derogatory about it. But we only worked in the gray areas before Andy, and we was pretty much KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Okay, let Dale do his job. Make sure the car is going to survive and last. Okay, and then that way we can work on the, have a chance. Give yourself a chance. There was a lot of things that there was a lot of changes in the car itself that we had to work through. Okay, had to work through a lot of them. So,
all right.
I'm being very vague here, if you can tell. Trying not to step on any toes.
Yeah. You can't argue with results.
No, none whatsoever.
92 was a terrible year.
Absolutely.
93 and 4, you won 2 championships.
Yeah.
And you talked about 93 when, you still didn't quite accept it or know what it meant. What did it mean to you in 94 to make you take that trip down pit road and maybe soak it in a little bit?
It was one of those deals that at the end of the day in 93, we had won a championship once again, and I didn't have a clue what it was about. And the 94 was a struggle. 93 was a struggle, but we were still adjusting for a lot of it. With the whole change in personnel there, different philosophies, different with that. In 94, it was all about working and trying to get it going. If I remember right, in 94, it was 94, we wrapped it up at Rockingham.
Yeah.
We nailed down number 7 at Rockingham with 2 to go.
Yeah.
Huge lead. Now, was 94 when Ernie got hurt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
we gained a big gap in that. Okay. That was a 100-point swing, if I remember right. So it was 94. We still had to battle, but we'd already had the championship locked up. In 93, they raised the banner after we finished 34th in Atlanta. Or when I say 34th, when the 34th place car went out and clinched it for us. So they raised the banner halfway through. In 94, we were already there with 2 to go. So I think that helped a lot because we knew it was going to happen. We were in battle mode. Don't get me wrong. But it wasn't the high intensity like what it was in 93. 93, We had front clips down there. We had rear clips down there. We had a Kansas Jack machine. We had everything ready to do whatever we need to do. Neil started the 31 car in case Earnhardt didn't fire up on pit road. He could go jump in the 31 and still have the Drivers' Championship, even if we didn't get the owners. It was just a lot of things like that where we went down there loaded for bear at Atlanta in 93. 94 was very similar, but also, the whole deal with Gordon's coming out, Richard Petty's retiring. It was a lot of stuff. There were. Did you ever see the full? I know y'all have seen the full story on the King retiring, but so the King crashes down the front straightaway, right? We always got that number 1 box. So they're over there, they're cleaning that up. And about the time one of the safety workers comes over to us and says, "Can we borrow a hammer?" And we're like, "Sure." Okay. So they take a hammer and they go back over to the ambulance and they bust the left side glass out. Did you know this?
Yeah.
Okay. So now they have to clean up the glass. They end up locking the keys in the ambulance. Okay.
Yeah.
While they're getting ready to fire him up for that.
Yeah.
I always thought that was.
I wrote a book about the 92 Hooters 500.
Okay. That was 92. That wasn't 94. That was 92, wasn't it?
That's
okay,
92.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was a great deal. Of watching that and being part of it. Forrest Gump here.
All right. So
94, we just the one part I won't forget about that was they were starting to change the racetrack around. Okay, so the way they do that is Rusty won the race, if I remember right. So he got to go to Victory Lane. They put us on a flatbed trailer and they make a 1-hour trip around the racetrack. So in that 1-hour trip, we're on there and we've got cases of champagne and we're drinking and watching and waving to the people. And we get down into turn 1 and there's a group of guys on the fence down there doing the "we're not worthy, we're not" like that, which was cool. But we get on the back straightaway and they got all the grandstands tore out on the back straightaway. There's nothing there and they got everything torn down. So everybody focused their attention to the infield. And there's a motorhome there. About halfway down the back straightaway, there's a lot of motorhome, but there's this one. And this guy, he's up on top of there, and he's jumping up and down, and he's waving and everything else, So with that, he's got all of our undivided attention at this point because of the way he's doing that. He turns around, drops his britches, moons us, okay? And when he does, naturally, I think he might have been under the effect of alcohol because as his as his britches are down around his knees, he loses his balance and falls off the top of the motorhome. And when he does, he just falls and he hits and he bounces. Okay, we can see this whole deal. And he pulls his pants up and he takes off towards the front of it away from us. And it was great. And everybody on the trailer's seen it. We're cheering at that point, especially the way he bounced. He just boink, bounced up and there he goes.
Bumbles bounce.
Yeah, Bumbles bounce. Right? So, it was that's the kind of stuff that you got to take in that year that we really didn't. The prior, it was just we were in kill mode in 93, making sure that we won it. And that was just it. We're sitting there and when I say we, Dale's in a ride along mode in 93 to make sure that he gets that 34th place. So I think he's running 5th or 6th or whatever. And whenever they all right, Dale, you're the champion. Okay, announce it over the radio, everything's good. He decides he's going to go the win. He buries it down into 3, drifts up and hits Rusty, about crashes both of them. Okay, and then he backs off and he goes back into all right, I need to finish and not be a butt here. So so that's where it was at.
Who was the Dale Earnhardt that you knew away from the racetrack, or
my best story was, I lived over here in Troutman at that point. We had moved down here. We had a house right off of Perth Road, and we were building our house in Statesville. So anyway, for him to leave the airport and come to his house, he drove right by my house. So Petrie left his briefcase or something on Dale's plane, Very seldom did we fly with Dale, or anybody fly with Dale. But he left it on there for some reason, and Dale was going to drop it off at my house. Okay. So it was if you know where Skipper's Marina is, there's like 2 houses up from there. It's a little house, a small 1,300 square house, nothing big. And anyway, so Dale comes over that night, and it's me and Tanya sitting there. Okay. And he just slings the door open, okay, and jumps in to scare us, right? And
Without knocking?
He knew it was our house.
Okay.
I don't think he knocked. I think he just jumped in.
Yeah,
He probably and the story was he jumped in and like that and scared us and gave that and everything else, and he grabbed me up like this right there, and he goes, boy, you don't have a proper lock on this door. You're gone all the time. You need to get the proper kind of security on this thing, because all I got to do is knock out this window. And I think he looked in the window and seen us.
Yeah.
Okay. All I got to do is knock out, is like those little slat windows. He goes, all I got to do is knock out this window, reach around and get this doorknob, and I'm in here on this girl with that baby. Okay. Take care of your family. And he did this like he was my dad. You know, that was a cool moment. You know what I mean? He knew what we did and how the time we're gone, and then that's where we got to make sure that we take care of our family.
Yeah.
And he was a firm believer in that. And that was a cool moment for me. You know, I mean, I talked about riding down the road with him. You know, when he said about the they're all just like me and you, with that, and you know, is I don't know. You had that kind of stuff. I'll never Talladega, when he put the mouse down Richard's shirt. You know, him on the track, how good he was on the track. You know, but away from it, he was a regular person. Heck, he invited me over one day, and we're out there on the farm, and he's driving me around and showing me the deer and showing me his new turkey call. A state trooper down in Alabama gave him a new turkey call, and he's calling turkeys off the roost with it and things like that. So he was a Rick. He's me and you, man. Okay, he just was in the spotlight a lot more.
How did you wind up going over to Michael Cranifus's deal?
Into '94, okay, and Petrie was a crew chief. And wasn't part of his plan. I mean, simple as that. They were starting that deal. France was starting that truck deal, and we had an opportunity to Childress had an opportunity to start the truck too. He talked to us about it on the plane and everything, and I could have moved down there, but I wasn't part of the Cup plan anymore.